In an interview, Chuck Schumer says, "My job," he told me, "is to keep the left pro-Israel." That's great, man. Love this guy. Phenomenal stuff. Keep? Well, his left probably means the liberals. He sucks at it too. Yeah, no, he does. The Democratic constituency is more anti-Israel than they literally ever have been. He warned that the greatest danger to Israel long-term is if you lose half of America, the liberal half. On one of Netanyahu's previous visits to the United States, Schumer told me he urged the prime minister to, quote, go on Rachel Maddow and not just Sean Hannity. Netanyahu ignored the advice, and Schumer, in a Senate speech, later called for new elections to replace him, for which he remains fiercely proud. It showed Democrats, he said, that it's possible to oppose Netanyahu while championing the Jewish state. He's been doing a phenomenal job opposing Netanyahu. My job, he told me, is to keep the left pro-Israel. And then they say, apparently more than halfway into this interview, or the write-up in the interview, there's right-wing anti-Semitism. Oh, just, as a side thought. I mean, you've got left-wing anti-Semitism, like please stop bombing children. You've got right-wing anti-Semitism, like the Nazis. There are left-wing anti-Semites. It's just they're almost meaningless. They genuinely, like, there are like edgy pan-Arabists on Twitter. There are like Islamists who pretend to be leftists as like a shared wedge against Israel. There is a lot of anti-Semitism out there that's not from like the Western right wing. Like you've got a lot of Arabs in the Middle East who are very anti-Semitic. There's no denying that. The Houthis are anti-Semitic. Hezbollah is anti-Semitic. Hamas is largely anti-Semitic, I'm sure there are people who join Hamas mostly for like militant, like liberationist causes, but yeah, absolutely, there's anti-Semitism in Hamas. But let's talk about, I don't know, Colombia student protesters or whatever. Colombia's kowtowed further to the Trump presidency in an effort to get their money back because the Department of Education withheld like $400 million from them or something on account of the protests they allowed to happen. They're turning Colombia into like a police state. Sorry, I looked for a write-up, and this is, like, quite long. I'm not reading this shit. They're going to be cracking down on protests more. Phenomenal stuff, really. Then there's right-wing anti-Semitism. Just as some anti-Israel demonstrators use the word Zionist as a substitute for Jew, corners of the right have had their own coded anti-Semitic language, like neocons or globalists. Oh, yeah, just the corners of the right wing that use globalist as an anti-Semitic dog whistle. Just, you hear it sometimes, not just from, like, the President of the United States of America and every single person in the party. God, here's a better write-up on Colombia's policies. CNN being collaborationist as always. Columbia University makes policy changes in dispute over federal funding. What policy changes? CNN, out of curiosity. Restrictions on demonstrations, new disciplinary procedures, and immediately reviewing its Middle East curriculum. Oh, great. Literally, like, everything and everyone must be subservient to Zionism. It's on every level, no protesting it. You can protest the U.S. government, but God forbid you protest Israel. If those Columbia student protests were just anti-U.S. government, you know what the pushback would have been? Nothing. You know why? Because everyone knows. If you protest the U.S. government, what happens? Nothing. It's still there tomorrow. You protest Israel enough, people actually start to get pissy about it. Because Israel's a different country. Same with the Vietnam War, right? You can protest the American government all you want. It's still going to be there tomorrow. You protest the Vietnam War enough, people will start to want to bring the boys back home. So you got to make that shit illegal. You got to do the Kent State Massacre. The Trump administration demanded several changes, including the university enforce its disciplinary policies, implement rules for protests, ban masks, announce a plan to hold student groups accountable, empower its law enforcement, and review its Middle East Studies program and its admissions. It's just unambiguously kowtowing to a fascist administration to make people more allegiant to Israel. Ban masks so that the cameras can always see who you are, so they can freeze your bank accounts if you're ever seen in public informing people about, like, illegal airstrikes against refugee camps in the West Bank. Kathy Hochul removed the Palestinian Studies job opening from CUNY. Yeah, no. It's beyond just Trump. Well, of course it's beyond just Trump. The entire, Kathy Hochul 100% is behind. It's the MIC, baby. It's not just Trump. Democrats did this too. Biden literally did this. Biden literally, at the height of the student protests, was like, free speech and all, but also like you're anti-Semitic, basically. Remember? Leo Terrell from DOJ says they're not getting the money back after the changes. Good. Anyway, what was I on about? Chuck Schumer? Jesus Christ. It's all a part of this book tour, right? You know, countries being taken over by fascists. Chuck Schumer uh, pushes to pass a Republican stopgap bill and then goes on a tour so we can talk about left anti-Semitism or whatever. He looks so evil. Well, he is evil. He's extremely evil, as a matter of fact. Derided by the MAGA right and yelled at by the far left, outside of Katz's delicatessen, it's hard to imagine a more Jewish place to be. You. The painting of the Jewish identity as like the Zionist who must stand stalwart in like opposition to people protesting both against your existence as a Jew and your unwavering support for Israeli genocide it's just absolutely sickening. It's really patronizing. It's more than patronizing. It's monstrous. It's also deeply anti-Semitic, by the way. It's no different than any previous like historical framework meant to paint like an atrocity being committed by perceived committed by an ethnic group as being like an innate component of their identity. You can think Lebensraum with the Aryans or westward expansion, you know, with the American settlers, where you try to make it this like innate. The difference here being is that rather than this being painted by the group itself, you know, it's not like Jews are running anything. Anti-Semitism is more widespread than ever. Well, not than ever, I should say. It's currently resurging. It's being painted on them. It's like a shadowy cabal of, let's be real here, largely secular, extremely evil MIC pedophiles who are like, hey guys, just to let you know, all this stuff that's happening, the reason why all this money's being circulated, all this harm's being done, it's down to this already persecuted ethnic group. Blame them. I guess they learned their lesson after Vietnam or whatever, right? Like Vietnam was too obviously America, you know? You give people too clear of a target. Too like obvious a group to blame. Now everything has to be done through a wedge. It's sick. Speaking of Schumer, says he won't step down as Senate Democrat leader despite government funding uproar. That's great. That's great. Obviously, he's not going to step down. He would need to be forced out. But will they force him out? Goebbels literally said opposing National Socialism is the same as opposing the German identity. Yeah, it's just like, I feel like what's actually happening, if we want to go with the Nazi comparison, a closer comparison would be if the Nazis in the lead up to their complete takeover of the Weimar government ran a psyop where they started promoting like key government and business figures who were Jews, paying them to say shit like, listen, you know, defrauding German banks and causing us to lose World War I is just part of our Jewish identity, to get everyone to hate them and to have, you know what I mean? It's like, obviously that's a little bit more obvious than what's going on right now, but that feels like it's like that level of like cynical weaponization, you know, like, hey, look over here. You would only need to pay off a few people, and then you could create this narrative of how, like, well, actually, don't you know it's anti-Semitic, da da da, and then, like, of course, that's only going to inflame anti-Semitism. I feel bad for Jews in this country, man. Whatever happens with Israel, this is going to be like hundreds of years of these like ethnic, the like political scapegoating. This shit goes down so far. Like there are like great like people who aren't going to be born for hundreds of years, and they're still going to be getting like hit with the repercussions of this. What is this? Passenger says a United pilot forcibly removed him from an airplane bathroom. Now he's suing. What? An Orthodox Jewish pastor says United Airlines pilot forcibly removed him while he was trying to shit, exposing his genitalia. Wait, what does this have to do with what I was saying? Did you just are you a Chat GPT bot? Is it because the article had the word Jewish in it, so you were like, this is relevant? Thanks for feeling bad for us, Vosh, but the Zionist Jewish and Zionist Christian community have earned this animus for centuries. Yeah, but like let's be real here, okay? I think most Jews in America are Zionist, but they didn't really have much of a choice, right? Like, we're talking about tight-knit, relatively small communities where you are getting fed propaganda like 24/7 about the necessity of a Jewish homeland state. You are a persecuted minority, okay. And then like both political parties are pushing a narrative about how like marginal outgroups are infringing on this like necessary survival right on your part. Like I reject the idea that the majority of Zionist Jews are Zionists out of the like hatred of Palestinians or whatever mobilizes the people who are actually making these decisions. You know, they're not all Ben Gavir or whatever, right? Yeah, they're passively Zionists. Yeah, you get the propaganda trip for Israel. You get the birthright trip, which is literally just like the state of Israel paying people to be Zionist. Laban, a fellow Orthodox Jewish traveler, said the pilot made disparaging remarks about their faith. They said they were forced to miss a connecting flight to New York City while U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers paraded them through an airport terminal, placed them in holding cells, and searched their luggage. Wait, what? The pilot broke the lock, forcing the bathroom door open, and pulled out the guy with his pants still around his ankles. Lieb and Sebig said the pilot then pushed them back into their seats while threatening to have them arrested and made remarks about their faith and how Jews act. You know, Jewish guys, they're always getting constipated? Huh. Well, that's a lawsuit. They do be shitting. That's an easy lawsuit. Does this pilot still have his job? I mean, not for long. But he was probably jerking it. Have you ever tried the shit on an airplane while you're constipated? I haven't. I have to imagine that's hell. How'd the pilot know the guy in the bathroom was Jewish? Well, they say Orthodox Jewish, so I'm guessing you could probably tell. I don't know how we ended on that, but I guess that's probably a better endpoint than the broader point that I was making, I guess, which is that we need to replace Schumer with, you know, someone who isn't that bad. I don't know. Jesus, man.